Tonight's special guest is Roger Hall. Roger is New Zealand's #1 playwright and has had great national and international success with a string of plays reaching back to his biggest hit Glide Time in 1976. This man has charted the course of our baby boomer lives with plays such as Middle Age Spread and Market Forces. We welcome Roger Hall as our special guest on The Beat Goes On. Roger Hall, welcome to The Beat Goes On. It's wonderful to see you after all these years of reading about you, hearing about your plays. Here you are at The Beat Goes On in person.
Great pleasure.
The life of a playwright. If you had to do it all over again, Roger, would you do it again?
I would. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. And I still catch myself thinking, I can't believe I'm doing this for a living, and something I never dreamt of as a young man. I knew I wanted to be something, but I didn't know quite what, and it took me a long time to get there. In fact, I give a talk called 15 Years to be an Overnight Success, and that's what it took. But here I am at almost 40 years of being a playwright.
Now, you were born in 1939 in merry old England.
Merry old, it wasn't merry then.
Wasn't it? No. You got something to say about the lack of merry, or?
Well, World War II was on its way.
Yeah.
And
but you would have missed it. You were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, you don't miss it because you see the effect on your parents, and you do hear, the blitz and the blackout every night and shortages of everything.
Did they ever take you down to an underground shelter?
No, not at least not. I don't remember that. But you did get woken up in the middle of the night and taken downstairs and so on. We were in a fairly safe area of London, but nevertheless, the impact of the war was all around.
19 years later, you decided to get on a boat and come to New Zealand, and you arrived in 1958 to a land that equalled England in the 1900s, early 1900s.
It wasn't as advanced as that. Well, it was. You did feel like you were stepping back in time, and all sorts of reasons. One was the sort of limited amount of goods in the shops, and you were very cut off. From communications. Letters took a week by airmail or 6 weeks any other way, and people didn't fly to England then, and it was, you're a long way from everything.
Did you say to yourself, oh my God, I've made a mistake, I shouldn't have come?
Not quite. There were moments, well, you signed on for 2 years, and there was this initial homesickness and so on. On the other hand, I began doing things that I would never have done in England.
So many people have said that they were able to do things in New Zealand that were just impossible in England.
And that was partly largely the class system, which until you walked away from it, you had no idea what effect it was having on you. But I suddenly thought, it sounds conceited. It was conceited. I thought I could be Prime Minister if I wanted to. Yeah. But whatever I wanted to be, I thought this is a country I could do it.
Yeah. You came to New Zealand, arrived in Wellington, 1958, and you were in the insurance business. But you dreamed of being a playwright.
No, that didn't come for ages. I thought I might want to be a writer, so I did write short stories. I made myself write movie criticisms of every film I went to, and because neither newspaper, Dominion or the Evening Post, had a film critic, and after a few months I suggested myself and got turned down, of course, and I joined an amateur dramatic society, and that was a big step which I didn't realise at the time. Again, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an actor, but it was a great experience.
When did the idea for the first play enter the mind of Roger Hall?
When I went to Teachers College and university, my big ambition actually was not so much to write a stage play, because after all they were 2 hours long and that would be impossible to write, but I wrote a lot of comedy material, sketch material, and then stuff for TV comedies. And I sent off a script to the BBC, and of course got turned down, but that was my immediate and burning ambition, was to have a comedy series on BBC television. But it didn't happen. It happened on Yorkshire television eventually, Granada, but sorry.
So the years went by and you kept at your craft. You changed from a typewriter to, I'm sure, a word processor at one stage, but suddenly success came your way. When was the day that you finally said, gosh, people in New Zealand know me, Roger Hall, and I've written a successful play? Give us that date.
August the 11th, 1976.
Wow.
And that's when Glide Time opened at Circa Theatre. And I had a feeling beforehand it would go well, but it went hugely well.
Didn't it go
And
well?
And I couldn't resist going along to Circa Theatre in my lunch hour and listening to those phones ringing and ringing and ringing.
For the bookings.
For the bookings. And the bookings went on and on, it sold out. They did another season, and then they went to the Opera House, which is going from a 90-seat theatre to like an 1,100-seat theatre. And the bookings opened again, and they were at the Majestic, and the queue was right out into the street, and this was the stuff of dreams.
Roger Hall had arrived.
I had arrived.
Wow.
Yes. Except I had arrived in Wellington. I was told that the play would never work in Auckland. Eventually went to Auckland, had 3 seasons. And then my next play was Middle Age Spread, and that consolidated, because always the big worry is the second play, how do you follow the first hit? And it was possibly an even bigger hit.
So there's your finger. It's right on the pulse of what's happening in society that actually brings those people out for the phones to ring and the queue to go around the block. What do you think that is about Roger Hall, that you're able to pinpoint what people want to laugh at and want to see?
I do seem to have an eye for what is going on and what is funny, but I'm also aware of what I'm doing wrong and stupidly, and it seems to be what everybody else is doing. Woody Allen says comedy is letting the audience know they're not alone. And you could see, a lot of my plays are what I call elbow nudges. You can see the audience going, oh my God,
That's
that's us.
you, yeah.
And one couple left one of my plays at half-time saying they could get all that at home. So, but I think one of the breakthroughs was that, by and large, New Zealand theatre was more interested in its past than the present. And here I presented everyday New Zealanders on stage, and people loved it.
Yeah. What's in the pipeline today for Roger Hall?
I've got a new play on, and the theme is the death of the book, and it's 6 old blokes who meet every week for coffee, literary guys. And this sounds the most boring play in the world.
No, I just see it's fascinating. Once again, your finger on the pulse.
And it's called
The Death of the Book.
It's called Bookends.
Book.
And so each scene is a year apart, and in the first scene, so 4 years ago, a guy turns up with a Kindle and says, I've seen the future and it works. And they all say, oh, ridiculous. Nobody's going to buy those things at that price, and so on. And their whole lives are crumbling away, really, because they're writers and they're booksellers and things. So that's the theme of it. But they're quite funny.
Now, look, you're looking very well today. No middle-age spread. You're looking the picture of health. So how long do you think Roger Hall will be turning out plays?
Well, this is my 4th last play. Every time I vow, I just can't. It is so stressful. This one I've just finished. There was a deadline I had to meet, and I would write half an hour, and I'd lie down for half an hour, and write. I mean, I just had to get through. It sounds ridiculous to say, just sitting at a typewriter, computer, finishing something off is exhausting. It was just really exhausting. However, I've bounced back from that, and who knows what will be next, but I don't know.
But you'll never be able to stop yourself. It'll be a nice, you'll say, I've retired now, 6 months go by, it's a sunny day, and you'll suddenly see the death of the book or some other idea like that, and you won't be able to stop yourself. The word processor will be sitting there, and you'll go in a way.
Michael Frayn wisely said, he was asked if he was writing another play, he said no, and no point in chasing it. It will come to you, or not. So I'm waiting.
There's got to be a sense of pride. Roger Hall, a sense of pride. You've done well. You've done well, haven't you?
Well, thank you. Yes, there is a sense of huge pride, really, because I think I did change New Zealand theatre, because until my plays came on, by and large, audiences shunned New Zealand plays. And my first 2 plays gave the audiences and the actors confidence to go to New Zealand play. And the amateurs, it used to be called the British Drama League, and they did British plays and some American plays. They didn't do New Zealand plays, I get a lot of productions through the amateurs, and I'm thrilled to bits when that happens. And I go along occasion, and you see the audience having a great time, and the actors having a great time. New Zealand theatre is worth supporting. I mean, I don't think you should go along thinking, oh, a sense of duty. But, Q Theatre in Auckland and ATC, I mean, we have a lot of live theatre, and it's really good. And, we go along to sport, and sometimes it's disappointing because after 15 minutes we know who's won. Some plays you're disappointed in, but keep going, because when it's magic,
Yeah.
it is just tremendous.
Roger Hall, what a pleasure to have you on The Beat Goes On.
Thank you very
A
much.
name so well known in New Zealand, in our studio. Thank you, Roger.
Great pleasure.